2020 will long be remembered as the year that the global pandemic hit and lockdowns happened, where we all had to stay at home from March until July to help protect each other and the National Health Service. The rainbow became a recognised symbol of hope and of thanks. In July, the national waterways were opened up and leisure cruising was permitted. After a glorious spring, the summer weather was typically British. Four days later,
We filled the water tank and prepared the boat for our August cruise. On the 3rd of August we moored at Marsworth.
the next day we set off on our cruise without setting up the camera. We were just happy to be cruising. It was when we made the turn onto the Wendover Arm that Paul offered to set up the camera in the well deck. Please don't comment about the camera position on this vlog. Please don't. Thank you.
The Wendover Arm was initially meant to be a feeder ditch to provide water to the Tring summit of the Grand Junction Canal. After a great deal of pressure from local farmers and landowners, the Grand Junction Canal Company applied to Parliament for an Act to make the ditch navigable from the town of Wendover to the summit level of the Grand Junction Canal at Bulbourne.
The rest, as they say, is history. The ditch was widened, a canal formed, and by 1799 wharves and industries flourished along the route.
We are approaching Gramnell Wharf, which is a site of a flour mill with a very impressive history.
The first mill on the site was established in 800 AD and, by the time of the Domesday Book, was the third highest rated mill in England. As the water feeder ditch was widened, the mill was sold to the Canal Company and the mill pond was diverted to feed into the canal. What about the locals? Did they object? Of course they did, especially as this meant that the local Baptist church were no longer able to perform baptisms in the mill pond.
In October 1800, the Canal Company sold the mill site, which was referred to as Tring Wharf, to a coal merchant. In July 1810 the site was sold again. This time the sale was to the Grover family who developed the site, reinstating the flour mill and named it as Gamnell Wharf. By 1875 a steam-driven flour mill was in use and there was a windmill on the site too. The windmill was demolished in 1911.
Although the Grovers didn't describe themselves as millers, they preferred the name wharfingers, which would indicate that they traded goods that were bulk transported by the canal, as well as milled flour. The site was purchased by Messrs Mead and Bailey in 1843, and trade of the site continued to be varied. The pair advertised themselves as millers, coal merchants, wharfingers and water carriers. They were also dealers in horse manure, which they imported by canal from London, sending cargoes of hay and straw in return. As you can see, there is still a mill on the site here at Gamnell Wharf today. It's capable of producing 76,000 tonnes of flour each year. The commercial life of the Wendover Canal was very short. By 1802 there was a considerable loss of water through the banks, and the canal was closed for repairs to be carried out. By 1841, 20 locks of water were being lost per day through leakage, and extensive repuddling, that's lining with clay, over a length of 4.5 miles was carried out. Despite the Canal Company's best efforts, by 1855, some 25 locks of water were escaping. Further repairs saw the lining of the leaking parts of the canal with a layer of asphalt 2.5 inches thick. This task was completed by 1858. In spite of all efforts to stop the leaking, by 1870 the loss was 30 locks of water per day. Repair work continued for another 26 years, but by 1897 the leakage was so large that the Wendover Arm was actually draining water from the main line of the Grand Junction Canal, instead of feeding water into it. Trade was lost to the nearby Aylesbury Canal Arm, which did not suffer from the same leakage problems. This of course meant that the Wendover Canal became less commercially viable. Eventually, stop planks were put in at Little Tring, with the result that although the Wendover Canal was severed, the level of water in the Summit Pound of the Grand Junction Canal immediately improved. The stop planks at Little Tring were replaced with a stop lock, which can still be seen next to the Tringford pumping station, to permit the arm to be used for traffic should the water situation ever improve. Eventually, despite massive protests from local people, the Royal Commission for Canals and Waterways and the county councils of Herts and Bucks, the Grand Junction Canal Company blocked the canal above the stop lock at Little Tring, dewatering the next 1.25 miles and lowering the water level on the remaining 3.75 miles. This major part of the Wendover Canal was closed in 1904. From 1918 to 1928, a short section was filled with domestic rubbish by Tring Urban District Council.
In October 1985, the Grand Union Canal Society formed a steering committee which became the Wendover Arm Trust, who have been actively restoring the canal ever since. The section from the stop block under the bridge number 3 to where we are now was officially reopened in March 2005. You can follow the restoration of the Wendover Arm on the Trust's website, which I will put a link to in the description below. A great deal of work has been carried out since 2005 to restore the canal beyond its current navigational limit. Over the past couple of years there's been a flurry of activity, and the Trust are currently rewatering parts of the canal beyond bridge number 4.
The winding hole here at Little Tring is large enough to wind an 80-foot boat. That's if you wind your boat correctly. Of course, I get the whole thing arse about face, and with the wind seriously hampering my efforts, I managed to get the nose button caught on the concrete edging. Thankfully, Paul is available to leap to the rescue. we reverse into a lovely mooring spot. The sequence of reversing a mooring has been shortened.
Zoom in on your...
No, I've set. Oh look, there's a couple of ducks down there. It's ever so windy. I'm going to have to shield the microphone on the camera. So where are we, honey?
Stone Reservoir.
Don't step backwards though, because you'd fall in. Ah! Of the 4 reservoirs at Tring, Willesden Reservoir is the largest, being 119 acres. It was built in 1802, is 18 feet deep, and has a capacity of 240 million imperial gallons. Willesden Reservoir supplies water to the Wendover arm of the Grand Union Canal via the Tringford pumping station.
Here's a photograph of our boat at the current navigable end of the Wendover Arm, making this our first silver propeller location. Thanks for watching. See you next time.